Instantly, the silver-haired boy's eye flashed with a piercing, cold blue light. A massive pillar of azure mana, accompanied by a complex magic circle beneath his feet, erupted violently to counter the girl's pressure. The clash of the two radiant powers created a shockwave so strong that the butler in the distance had to quickly shield the maid, screaming in panic, "Kya!" The room trembled violently before the energy slowly dissipated. As the mana pressure settled, the boy took a step back, closing his eyes and letting out a sigh of relief. In stark contrast to his quiet demeanor, the red-haired girl's eyes widened in delight. A radiant smile spread across her face, and she burst into laughter. "Wow! Haha!" She clasped her black-gloved hands together, trembling with excitement, her eyes shining as she looked at him. "Hey!" She leaned forward, her gaze filled with anticipation and boldness, dropping a proposal that completely silenced the room. "Want to marry me?" Standing in the middle of the room with its intricate floor patterns, the boy was dumbfounded. His face froze, a drop of sweat rolling down his cheek, his mind completely blank and speechless at the absurd question. Seeing his stunned expression, the girl laughed heartily, hastily waving her hands to break the awkwardness. "What's with that reaction? It was just a joke." The butler standing behind her muttered helplessly, "Young miss." Despite saying it was a joke, her eyes remained sharp and confident. "Still, think about it once. The seat next to me is empty right now." Ignoring the teasing, the boy silently turned on his heel and walked away as the maids bowed. He only glanced back with an indifferent look. As he walked away, his mind began piecing together what had just happened. His eyes narrowed in deep thought and caution. He raised his right hand, which was still trembling slightly from the terrifying clash of power moments ago. Astonishment was evident on his face as he silently evaluated his opponent. "She has mana on par with mine at the very least. Is this level normal?" The scene shifts to a magnificent study, highlighted by a grand family crest cast in gold hanging on the wall. The boy enters, standing quietly on the intricately patterned rug facing the large desk. Behind the desk sits a middle-aged man with a neatly trimmed beard, exuding a calm authority. He smiles welcomingly at the young guest. "Welcome, young noble. You already know my name, yes?" The man clasped his hands together on the desk, introducing himself slowly. "Lord of Aurum, Rug Voltas. I'm Turan." The boy placed a hand on his chest, bowing slightly in a respectful greeting. "Turan?" Hearing this, the lord got straight to the point. "So, you want to use the library?" His gaze turned more serious as he looked through the sunlit window. "A lot of people come here after hearing strange rumors, so I'll say this in advance. There isn't any amazing ancient magic in the library, nor some secret method to increase your mana." Standing tall in the grand room, the boy replied firmly, "I'm fine with that. I never wanted anything like that." Hearing this, Turan nodded in satisfaction. "If you still want it, I won't stop you. In any case, there's nothing inside that counts as confidential information related to our house." He looked outside, where the evening shadows were falling upon the towering, ancient vine-covered spire. "It's gotten late today, so rest and come back tomorrow. Is that acceptable?" The boy bowed in gratitude. "I won't forget your kindness." The next morning, the boy approached a massive double door reaching to the ceiling, intricately carved with shining sun motifs. The two guards in black cloaks bowed respectfully in unison. "Your entry pass has been confirmed, esteemed guest. Welcome to the Sky Library." The heavy doors slowly opened. The boy's eyes widened, taking in a magnificent sight. Countless colossal bookshelves surrounding a spiral staircase that reached endlessly up to the peak of the tower, bathed in divine light. Unable to hide his awe, he softly exclaimed, "Wow!" The young man stepped through the glowing doorway, his shadow stretching across the ancient stone floor. He looked in awe at the long wooden tables and towering bookshelves bathed in dim light. "So this is the library." Suddenly, from below his line of sight, a petite girl in an oversized white robe looked up, greeting him cheerfully. "Nice to meet you, Turan. I'm the librarian here." The librarian girl with pale skin and a bright smile continued. "By order of the Lord, I'll explain the rules for using this place. The rules are simple." Meanwhile, Turan's sweat dropped, looking deadpan as he thought, "A little kid, is the librarian?" Oblivious to his doubt, the girl jumped up, pointing her finger enthusiastically. "First rule, If you damage anything, you compensate. Second rule, no taking books out. Oh, and while you're using the library, I'll be watching you the whole time. The girl clung tightly to Turan's cloak from behind, making him glance back awkwardly. All right, but when I'm reading, could you stand a little farther away? I feel uncomfortable. He walked down the spacious aisle, turning to ask the girl trailing behind him, if you're a librarian, you've read the books here too, right? The girl replied proudly, her hands hidden in her wide sleeves. Yes, if you need something, finding it for you is what I'm best at. What do you want? Romance? History? Or since you're young? Looking up at him with wide eyes, the girl dropped a bold tease. Something erotic. Turan was utterly speechless, responding only with absolute silence. Ignoring the joke, he earnestly stated his purpose. I want to learn basic common sense about the world. The girl tilted her head in confusion. A moment later, a thick stack of ancient books was dropped onto the table. The girl's voice echoed. A lot of the books here are hundreds of years old, so they won't really suit your needs. The girl busily arranged the worn books into neat stacks on the wooden table. But this section might help a little. Turan looked at the books and said gently, Thank you. The girl smiled and turned away. You're welcome. He picked up a dark hardcover book engraved with ancient runes. Running his fingers over the spine, he opened the first yellowed pages, his eyes revealing a raw curiosity. So this is what a book is. Staring intently at the dense lines of text, his eyes trembled slightly. A whole new world was opening up before him, filling him with genuine awe. It's amazing. Viewed from above, his small figure was dwarfed by the long table and countless books. From that day on, the narrator's voice slowly echoed. Turan repeated the same routine every day, reading in the library. Through the pages, Turan's mind seemed to travel to distant lands. He saw visions of majestic cliffs bathed in brilliant sunlight, fairies fluttering in deep forests, the rugged face of an orc, and a beautiful mermaid resting on a rock amidst a stormy ocean. The narration continued. Now he came to understand this world's geography, its different races, the etiquette of wizards, how various items were manufactured and processed, and even monsters and relics from the era of the old empire. Turan gently closed his eyes, taking in the scent of old paper and carefully holding the book in his hands. With each piece of knowledge he accumulated, the thoughts flowed. His world, something that was once nothing but an unknown space, grew clearer and more vivid to him. The scene shifts back to the Lord of Orum's study. Rug Voltas rested his chin on his hand, sporting a meaningful smile of approval as he looked at the young man. So you really have been making excellent use of the library. Standing tall in the chandelier-lit room, Turan calmly replied, Yes. Lord Voltas's expression turned more serious as he spoke slowly. I trust you understand that, separate from treating you as a noble, allowing you to use the library is an act of goodwill. I would like to receive payment for that goodwill. Without hesitation, Turan offered directly, Please tell me what you need. The Lord got straight to the point. A monster has appeared north of Orum and has been attacking travelers. An aerial view reveals the bustling and magnificent estate of Orum, but underlying threats loom just outside. Turan's voice rang out evenly. Do you want me to hunt it? Lord Voltas raised a hand to massage his forehead, revealing the exhaustion and stress etched into his eyes. For knights who went to subjugate it never returned. They were eaten. It seems a noble will have to step in personally, but our house can only mobilize 2 people at the moment. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Turan once again firmly reiterated his willingness to help. Please tell me what you need. Hearing Lord Voltas's request, Turan calmly nodded. Very well. Deep down, he told himself, protecting people is what a wizard ought to do. However, a ripple of doubt arose in his mind. Something feels off. Aren't wizards usually the type who don't get involved in things like this? Meanwhile, in another setting, a mustached man complained. Do you think wizards are that idle? Back in the study, Lord Voltas continued with a grave expression, signing documents with a pen. The northern road they've blocked is an important trade route for Orum. It's already been blocked for 10 days, so we have to open it quickly. Turan narrowed his eyes, a smirk forming on his lips as he pieced things together. 10 days ago. That was before I even arrived in Orum. His eyes glinted with understanding. So that's why he let me use the library so readily. The scene shifts down to the boots of a marching group of knights, the sound of their footsteps echoing steadily. They march towards the massive gate of Orem Castle, hazy in the morning mist. Under the clear blue sky, the red-haired girl, now known as the young miss of the Voltas family, stretched comfortably, her interlaced fingers cracking. She chuckled faintly. Father really is something else. To think he'd even mobilize a guest for a monster hunt. Accompanying her were Turan and a young knight with black hair. The young knight scratched his head, smiling awkwardly as he asked, "Were we that unreliable?" The red-haired girl waved her hand, turning back to explain to the young knight, "Oh, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying Father is making a huge fuss." The knight closed one eye slightly, smiling in response. "Isn't calling the Lord fussy a bit much, young miss?" retorted. The girl glared at him, scowling grumpily. "Drop it." The knight startled, trembling as he gave a silly reply. "What?" While Turan simply observed in silence. At this moment, the young knight turned to Turan, placed a hand on his chest, and greeted him friendly. "This is our first time meeting properly, isn't it? I'm Marvin Voltas. I look forward to working with you." Turan calmly replied, "Likewise." They continued walking on the dirt path, their footsteps treading on weeds. Suddenly, the red-haired girl stopped, turned back to look at the two, and urged, "Let's finish this quickly and go back to rest." Turan and Marvin paused. Suddenly, Marvin leaned in closer to Turan, asking quietly with a bright smile, "Turan, are you interested in my big sister by any chance?" Turan was taken aback, looking at Marvin in surprise. "Pardon? No." Hearing that decisive answer, Marvin breathed a sigh of relief, closing his eyes in a satisfied smile. "That's a relief." The group continued advancing into the dense, foggy forest until a loud shout rang out from the vanguard. "Stop! Stop!" At the scene, a completely smashed horse carriage lay scattered across the dirt road. A soldier examining a broken will asked the captain, "Is that the creature?" The captain replied, "Probably. We forbade anyone from going north from our side, so they must have come south and got attacked then." Turan rubbed his chin in thought. Noticing a small detail on a piece of splintered wood, he saw a deep, imprinted handprint. Turan approached the scattered debris, calmly concluding, "It's a monkey." The red-haired girl peeked out from behind him curiously, asking in surprise, "A monkey?" Turan pointed at the faint mark on the wood. "Look at the handprint here. It looks like it attacked the peddlers and went back into the forest." He turned to look towards the deep, densely wooded forest. "If we find the trail and pursue it, we should be able to find it." The red-haired girl crossed her arms, looking hesitant. "Pursue it? I can barely use that kind of magic." "Marvin, what about you?" Marvin also scratched his head helplessly. "Me neither. Is there a knight who can dash?" Hearing this, Turan proactively stepped forward. "I'll try looking." The girl looked at him in surprise. "Oh, are you from that bloodline?" Turan took off his white glove, replying modestly, "I use it a lot, so I'm used to it." Turan closed his eyes tight, beginning his incantation, "Search." When he opened his eyes, a sharp gleam flashed in his pupil. A trail of blue mana, curling like smoke, poured out, floating and then darting into the darkness of the deep forest, tracing a glowing path through the dark foliage, leading the way to where the monster was hiding. Following the faint magical light guiding them, Turan pointed ahead. "This way." The group advanced cautiously deep into the forest, their footsteps halted by the bank of a small, babbling stream, reflecting the soft light filtering through the leaves. Turan lowered his hand, assessing the situation. "It stops here. Looks like it washed its body." The red-haired girl frowned, skeptical of the monster's intelligence. "You're saying a mere beast did that to avoid being tracked?" Standing with his back to the stream, Turan calmly replied to the girl's doubt. "Maybe it just washed because it wanted to." However, just as he finished speaking, a low growl cut through the silence. "Krrr." Turan's pupils dilated sharply, and he immediately warned with an urgent tone. "Behind you!" Marvin and the red-haired girl startled and spun around, their faces extremely tense as they faced a massive dark shadow lunging from behind the mist. A deafening roar tore through the forest. Kiekk, a giant monster ape with pitch-black fur, blood-red eyes, and sharp fangs unexpectedly leaped out from the bushes. Its massive body plummeted with terrifying speed, creating the sound of wind tearing. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The knights in the group stared in awe at the hideous creature casting a giant shadow over them, preparing to deliver a devastating blow. Boom! The captain of the knights screamed in panic, "Dodge!" But it was too late. The monster swung its massive arm in a sweeping arc. The terrifying force sent 3 soldiers flying into the air, blood splattering. Screams of agony rang out endlessly. UWHH. HHHHH. With a single blow, the beast had caused heavy damage, its body landing heavily on the ground with a loud thud. Without hesitation, Turan agilely retreated, sliding a long distance on the ground to maintain a safe distance. In that brief moment, he witnessed the tragedy unfolding before his eyes. Cough! A severely injured knight, covered in blood, grimaced in excruciating pain. Standing right in front of the soldier was the red-haired girl, frozen as she stared at the bloody scene that had just occurred next to her. Turan's gaze was calm, hiding a cold calculation. Faced with the horrifying bloody scene, the red-haired girl was in absolute panic, turning her back and running for her life, letting out a terrified gasp. Gasp! Observing the arrogant young Mrs. Feeble reaction, Turan half closed his eyes, deep in thought. Mother wasn't wrong. Just then, the strong voice of the knight captain rang out, rallying the remaining men. Attack! Everyone charged at the black monster, roaring fiercely. The knights fought bravely, continuously swinging their swords at the monster. The sound of clashing weapons rang out. Wounded and outnumbered, the beast let out a piercing howl. Wokii. Realizing its disadvantage, it immediately turned and fled deep into the forest. A soldier yelled, "It's running!" The captain immediately ordered, "Chase it!" However, with its massive body and long arms, the giant ape swung on branches with incredible speed, vanishing like the wind. Whoosh! The group chased closely, but the distance grew further. Marvin gritted his teeth in anger, muttering as he ran. Damn it! It's too fast! The red-haired girl was also panting, running behind him. Marvin yelled out, "We're losing it!" Right at that moment, from a distance, the monster picked up a rock and hurled it backward. The red-haired girl widened her eyes in terror as the rock flew towards her with a whistling sound. Swoosh! Completely paralyzed by fear, she could only gasp. A blinding beam of light magic suddenly shot forward like lightning from behind. The blinding blue magic beam pierced the dense space, hitting and shattering the rock right in front of the red-haired girl. The terrifying force didn't stop there. It continued straight ahead and struck the fleeing beast directly in the back. The giant ape let out a miserable, agonizing scream, blood spurting from the fatal wound, and it collapsed to the ground. Kikkk. Marvin and the red-haired girl stood stunned, still in shock from the terrifying power that had just flown past their heads. They turned around to look at the source of the magic. Turan, with his cloak fluttering in the wind, slowly lowered his hand. Around him, wisps of blue mana were still swirling and fading into the air. Whoosh whoosh. His face maintained its usual calm and quiet demeanor, his deep eyes looking towards the fallen monster, a faint, confident smile on his lips. Bullseye.